It began with static, a ripple of interference across Russian radar grids near Sevastopol. Operators frowned, tapped their screens, unaware that the anomaly was deliberate. Ukrainian cyber units had injected false echoes, blinding sensors just as the first wave of drones crossed the horizon. At 3:12 a.m., the silence broke. Bayraktar TB2 swept low at 65 feet above the sea, invisible to radar, each carrying precision charges. From Odessa to Mykolaiv, command signals pulsed through encrypted channels, synchronizing hundreds of flight paths into one living swarm. "All systems green," whispered the lead operator. "Release Phase 1. The night sky flickered with faint heat signatures. Russian air defenses picked them up too late. The Admiral Makarov, flagship of the fleet, was the first to be hit. A drone skimmed the surface at Mach 0.9, weaving through counterfire, its onboard AI adjusting course with ghost-like precision. When it struck, the blast split the hull midships. Fire blossomed upward, reflected in the harbor waters like molten dawn. Crewmen stumbled from bunks, alarms screaming. Windows shattered. Glass cascaded like glittering rain. The shockwave rolled through Sevastopol's port, turning calm into chaos. Across the coastline, searchlights carved through the smoke. Tor-M2 batteries opened fire, streaks of red arcing into the void. 2 drones exploded mid-air, but their wreckage fell harmlessly into the sea. The rest pressed forward. The Russian command tower tried to issue orders, but its screens flickered, then went black. Ukrainian jammers had severed internal lines, turning the defense grid into a maze of confusion. "We've lost visuals!" shouted one officer. The Black Sea Fleet, once a symbol of dominance, was blind, its ships turning their guns on shadows. Above, a second formation of aerial drones began a pincer sweep. Each unit carried a 40-kilogram warhead designed for armor penetration. They dived at steep angles, aiming for fuel reserves and radar arrays. One struck the docked corvette Ivanovets. The explosion folded steel like paper. Flames climbed 30 feet, oil slicks spreading in orange ripples. The air smelled of burning diesel and salt. The soundscape was pure war, sirens, distant thunder, and the mechanical buzz of wings cutting through chaos. Ukrainian cyber units, stationed hundreds of miles away, watched their feeds with icy focus. They launched the next layer, digital misdirection. Every Russian radar now showed 20 ghost targets. Air defenses wasted missile after missile chasing phantoms. Meanwhile, real drones slipped past, hugging the waterline at 60 knots. "Decoy success rate is 92%, reported a voice. "Primary swarm advancing to secondary phase." Then came the sea drones. Sleek, black, and silent, Magura V5s skimmed the waves, guided by onboard cameras and satellite uplinks. Each vessel carried 200 kilograms of explosives packed into reinforced hulls. Operators guided them through infrared overlays, steering between buoys and mines toward the docked landing ships. At 3:47 a.m., one struck the Olenogorsky Gornyak. The explosion ripped the bow apart. A geyser of flame shot skyward. For a brief moment, the ship lifted from the water, then sank back in pieces. The blast echoed across the bay like the crack of a giant's whip. Panic spread through the fleet. Russian sailors scrambled to cut loose mooring lines, shouting into malfunctioning radios. MiG-31 fighters launched from Belbek Air Base, streaking overhead at Mach 2. Their radar locks flickered, distorted by Ukrainian jamming fields. One pilot fired an R-77 missile blindly into the dark. It found its mark. One drone vaporized mid-air, but dozens more filled the sky behind it. For every kill, one analyst later said, 5 more appeared. The swarm did not retreat. It adapted. Ukrainian command tracked everything through live thermal imaging. Every impact was logged, every target updated in real time. AI-assisted control systems rerouted surviving drones toward new coordinates, weaving a pattern of destruction that felt less like an assault and more like orchestration. On screen, the Black Sea looked alive, hundreds of moving red dots converging, separating, striking. Adjust altitude to 80 feet. Maintain vector east-northeast, came the calm voice of the field commander. War had become software, beautiful, precise, merciless. Russian anti-aircraft crews fought desperately, firing into the smoke. Some missiles missed entirely, their guidance scrambled. Others found their targets, detonating with thunder that shook the coastline. But it wasn't enough. Ukrainian drones approached from 3 directions, their engines muffled, their heat signatures masked by electronic noise. When one crashed, another took its path. When a jammer failed, a backup engaged instantly. Every movement was choreographed, the product of months of simulation. A Ukrainian surface drone, low and fast, breached the harbor wall. It struck the side of a refueling barge, igniting thousands of gallons of diesel. The resulting fireball engulfed nearby ships in waves of heat. Cameras on satellite relays caught the explosion from orbit, a bloom of white against the dark sea. Russian commanders watched helplessly from control bunkers. "We've lost the northern dock," one shouted. The reply came seconds later, distorted by static. "Pull back. The sea is burning." For a moment, even the Ukrainian control center fell silent, stunned by the scale of destruction their swarm had unleashed. Monitors glowed red and gold, each representing a confirmed strike. The room pulsed with quiet awe and exhaustion. "Target 2 neutralized," murmured an operator. Multiple hits confirmed. No cheers followed, just focus, discipline. The realization that this night would rewrite modern warfare. In the distance, the remaining Russian frigates attempted a retreat, engines roaring, cutting across a sea slick with oil and debris. Helicopters rose from the coast, searchlights sweeping for survivors. Ukrainian surveillance drones hovered high above, recording everything. Through their lenses, the Black Sea looked like a field of dying stars, ships aflame. Smoke curling toward the moon, water turned to mirror the fire.
Move, get to the lower deck.
On land, emergency crews raced through Sevastopol, their headlights carving streaks through the smoke. The wounded were pulled from the docks, some burned, some dazed. Medic teams inbound, came the broken transmission. Civilian neighborhoods trembled under the concussion waves. Windows shattered miles inland. The night sky glowed orange for hours. By dawn, the first satellite photos confirmed the unthinkable. 2 major warships destroyed, 3 severely damaged, multiple infrastructure points in flames. The cost of destruction, over $5 billion in naval assets, achieved with less than $30 million in hardware. It was precision through simplicity, one Ukrainian analyst said later. The era of the billion-dollar fleet is ending. As the last drone completed its run and self-destructed in open waters, the battlefield fell quiet again. Only the crackle of fire and the soft whine of distant engines remained. The Black Sea, hours ago a symbol of Russian dominance, now reflected only ruin. Ukrainian operators sat in their bunkers, faces pale, lit by fading screens. They knew this wasn't just a victory, it was a message. The message was simple. The future of warfare is small, smart, and unstoppable. Machines no longer followed men into battle. Men followed data. Each strike tonight had been a test of precision, courage, and control. As one operator leaned back, eyes on the glowing map of the sea, he whispered, "This is only the first chapter." And as dawn broke over the smoking horizon, waves rolled quietly against the wreckage. The calm had returned, but it was a different calm. One born not of peace, but of exhaustion. The Black Sea had witnessed something ancient and new at once. The fall of empires, reborn through code and steel. Somewhere beyond that horizon, more drones were being armed. The sea would never sleep the same again. Dawn rose pale over the Black Sea, revealing smoke columns stretching for miles. The waters shimmered with oil and fire, waves licking the twisted remains of warships that had once ruled these coasts. Russian sailors huddled on life rafts, their uniforms blackened by soot. Overhead, reconnaissance drones circled silently, their cameras recording every ripple of the aftermath. The air smelled of iron, salt, and defeat. Yet far to the northwest, engines were already spooling again. The first act was over, but the war had not gone quiet. Inside a dim bunker outside Odessa, the next operation was unfolding in whispers and keystrokes. Satellite images streamed in from NATO feeds. Sevastopol in chaos, dry docks glowing red with heat signatures, radio traffic dense and panicked. Ukrainian commanders exchanged clipped commands. "Initiate Wave 3, said a calm voice over encrypted comms. Dozens of icons blinked on the map. Neptune 2.0 cruise missiles, modified for precision anti-ship strikes, armed and ready. Their range, 250 kilometers. Their speed, Mach 2.1. Their target, the crippled submarines hiding in Sevastopol's shadowed docks. The order came through a coded sequence. Fire. Phoenix Protocol. 6 missiles launched almost simultaneously, cutting across the dawn sky. From Crimea's edge, Russian spotters glimpsed contrails like streaks of molten silver. The first missile flew barely 90 feet above the waves, its radar cross-section no larger than a bird. Sevastopol's defenses, still reeling from the night assault, hesitated. By the time sirens sounded, the first impact had already happened. The explosion tore through the dry dock, molten debris raining over cranes and repair yards. Two Kilo-class submarines, worth hundreds of millions, were struck before their crews even reached the deck. One sank immediately. The other burned half-submerged, black smoke pouring into the rising light. Russian commanders screamed orders over fractured comm lines. Deploy interceptors! Launch counter battery! But nothing coordinated could emerge from the confusion. GPS feeds were spoofed. Radar displays flooded with false echoes. Some ships fired at decoy signals, others at empty sky. The Ukrainian cyber offensive had reached its full strength now. Thousands of code packets corrupting communications, flipping friend into foe on digital maps. In the command tower, officers pounded consoles as screens blinked to black. "We're fighting ghosts," one muttered. And he wasn't wrong. Meanwhile, the human toll became clearer. Helicopters hovered over the bay, dropping flotation buoys for survivors. Flames roared from the shattered remains of the Admiral Essen, its hull cracked open like an eggshell. From the drone feeds, Ukrainian operators watched lifeboats scatter across the sea. One operator paused, leaned closer to his monitor, and marked a distress signal. Without hesitation, a smaller Ukrainian drone changed course, dropping a rescue beacon near the survivors. Even in destruction, humanity flickered through the noise of war. "Confirm signal received," the operator whispered. The data light blinked green. Got them? At 04:08, Russia attempted its counterstrike. From the remaining frigates, Kaliber cruise missiles launched in salvo, long arcs of fire reaching toward Odessa's coast. Ukrainian radar tracked them immediately. Air defense crews moved like clockwork. Patriot batteries roared. NASAM systems lit the sky. 11 missiles intercepted, each one a glowing wound in the atmosphere. Two slipped through, striking a fuel depot near the shore. Damage contained, flames controlled within minutes. The defenders barely spoke, only nodded at each confirmation. The rhythm of retaliation had become routine. Ukraine's reply came swift and precise. From deep inside the Mykolaiv region, Storm Shadow missiles launched, cutting high above the clouds. Their targets, the radar and jamming centers in northern Crimea that had coordinated Russia's naval communication. At 04:41, impact confirmed. One control site erased, another disabled. "Every blow invites another," said the narrator of this war, if war could have a voice. But tonight the pattern felt different. It was no longer chaos. It was calculation. By sunrise, NATO reconnaissance planes traced heat signatures over the entire western Black Sea. Analysts stared in disbelief. More than 7 ships ablaze, docks in ruins, smoke visible from orbit. News agencies scrambled for footage. Moscow denied the extent, calling it minor damage. But satellite images spoke otherwise, truth rendered in pixels and shadows. "Propaganda met precision," one Western official remarked, and precision won. Economists would later calculate the loss. $5.2 billion in naval assets, 4 warships destroyed, 3 crippled, 2 submarines erased. Ukraine's cost, less than $30 million in drones and munitions, a ratio that defied centuries of military doctrine. "The age of steel and manpower is ending," a defense analyst would write. Now code and circuitry decide the tide. In Sevastopol, the fires burned for 2 more days. Russian divers searched the harbor floor for fragments of ships once named after admirals and heroes. Civilian ferries turned rescue vessels, ferried the wounded to shore. The sky hung thick with smoke. Even the gulls avoided it. Inside a surviving command post, officers huddled around flickering lamps. They didn't discuss victory, only survival. "What do we tell them?" one asked quietly. The answer came hollow. "Tell them we're still fighting." Across the border, Ukrainian officers debriefed. They didn't celebrate. On screen, the sea glowed with wreck markers. The chief coordinator removed his headset and stared at the display for a long time. "We didn't destroy men," he said softly. "We destroyed the idea that the sea belongs to empires." Around him, the room was silent except for the hum of servers cooling. One by one, they began to archive the night's footage, evidence not of power, but of transformation. The international reaction came quickly. NATO analysts hailed it as the largest naval drone strike in recorded history. Defense ministries scrambled to study it. Think tanks called it a paradigm shift. In Moscow, state media denied losses even as smoke plumes appeared in the background of their own broadcasts. "The fleet stands ready," they insisted. But satellite data told a different story. Half the docks empty, ships sunk at anchor. The Black Sea Fleet was no longer a fleet. It was a graveyard. Meanwhile, on the global stage, every military watched in silence. The lesson was clear. No fortress was invulnerable, no navy untouchable. Cheap, intelligent machines could do what bombers and battleships once dreamed of. Generals whispered the new word like prophecy: saturation. A swarm too vast to stop, too fast to understand. The line between software and weapons had vanished. By evening, Ukrainian operators stood down. Their monitors dimmed, communications closed, and silence filled the bunkers once again. But for a few moments, no one moved. They had just rewritten military history. In their exhaustion, some wept quietly, others simply stared at the live feed of the burning coast. The war had cost them friends, homes, years, but tonight it gave them something else. Proof that strategy could outthink might. As the fires faded, Russian recovery crews pulled twisted metal from the sea. Every rivet told a story of overconfidence shattered by innovation. The Black Sea that once echoed with parades now murmured with the sound of salvage cranes. Even the water seemed darker, burdened with the ghosts of engines and commands shouted too late. And yet beyond the horizon, new life stirred. Satellite intercepts revealed another Ukrainian facility near the Dnipro, its assembly yards lit through the night. Inside, rows of new drones took shape under industrial lamps. 300 units projected by month's end. A second fleet, smaller, faster, more intelligent. The war had entered its next phase before the ashes cooled. Somewhere deep in Kiev, a commander recorded the final entry for the night. "Operation completed," he said, his voice steady. "Success ratio 93%. Losses minimal. Morale steady." Then he paused. "History will remember this not as destruction, but as adaptation." He turned off the recorder. The screen went dark. Outside, dawn spread across the horizon again, soft light spilling over the sea that had burned just hours before. Waves rolled against twisted hulls, washing soot from steel. The Black Sea was quiet now, but not peaceful. Every survivor, every operator, every satellite still orbiting above knew the same truth. This war had changed forever. The machines had spoken, and their language was precise. In that silence, one last sonar ping echoed beneath the surface. Faint, mechanical, eternal. A reminder that beneath the ashes and oil, the war was still alive, waiting. The sea had learned to fight back, and as the world watched, the future of warfare shimmered on the horizon, cold, efficient, and unstoppable. Then, as if exhaling, the waves rolled in again, and the Black Sea swallowed the light.